Crush and conquer. That's the goal of the Israeli military as they're prepared to launch a ground invasion of Gaza to destroy the terrorist group Hamas.
Well, the attack could come at any moment, but Israeli leaders warn that this could be a long and difficult war. Chris Mitchell brings us the story from Jerusalem.
On Thursday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Israeli troops on the Golan Heights.
I'm here with Golani's fighters. They come from all parts of the country. They fought like lions. They will fight like lions. We're going to win with all our might. The entire nation of Israel stands behind you, and we will give the hard blow to our enemies so that we achieve victory for victory. Ready?
In the south, the IDF says it's completing its checklist by approving operational plans and deploying forces. Israel's defense minister addressed troops on the border.
Get organized. Be ready. The order will come. Thank you so much, guys. We trust you. Good luck, and we'll meet again. Whoever sees Gaza from afar now will see it from the inside. I promise you, that's a promise.
We have a very, very clear goal. We are going to go in Gaza, and we are going to completely destroy Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and every infrastructure of terror in the Gaza Strip.
While there's been talk about the ground campaign being delayed, Reserve Brigadier General Amir Avivi tells CBN News it's right on schedule.
There is no delay, there is preparations. We have a schedule. We're preparing the troops. You have to remember that we have mobilized hundreds of thousands of reservists. We want to train them, equip them. They have to learn their missions. Once we feel it will be the right moment, we'll go in.
Middle East expert Avi Melamed says Hamas is part of Iran's master plan to destroy the Jewish state.
The Iranian regime, to that end, has created what we call the Ring of Fire, meaning creating armies of terror around Israel's neck, in Lebanon, in the shape of the Hezbollah, in Syria, in the shape of Iraqi, Afghan, and Pakistani Shiite militias, and the last component of that ring is Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza Strip.
Up north, as Israel and Hezbollah continue to fire at one another, the question remains if and when Hezbollah will join the war. Thousands of residents from the city of Kiryat Shimona near the northern border are being evacuated, making nearly 300,000 Israelis evacuated from both north and south. Meanwhile, other regional hotspots are emerging. A U.S. warship in the Red Sea intercepted missiles meant for Israel, fired by Iranian-backed Houthis. 3 U.S. military bases in Syria are also reportedly under attack. These events signal the possibility of a wider Middle East conflict that would fit the idea of the Iranian regime creating a regional ring of fire.
This is a mega event. This is a seismic event. This is an event that has a huge ramifications, and in many perspectives, it sends aftershock waves in the context of Israeli society and politics, Palestinian society and politics, the trajectory of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It sends massive aftershock waves to the region, to the Middle East. It sends shock waves to the international community and finally also to American juries.
Despite the danger, General Avivi says all eyes are on the God of Israel.
It's amazing to see how united people are, how the spirit is strong, how the connection to God is strong. Now everybody is praying. You know, in war you don't have atheists. Everybody speaks with God and seeks guidance and protection.
Chris Mitchell is with us now from Jerusalem. Chris, in your report, you noted the delay Israel has been accused of with this ground assault, but they say they are right on time, right on schedule. What can we expect from Israel's assault on Gaza?
Well, first of all, Andrew, I'd like to talk about the, at the end of the report, we talked about prayer. There, you saw people, Jews pray against the Western Wall. I don't think I've ever heard of so many prayer events or people praying together for Israel right now. It's really a crescendo of prayer around the globe. To your question about what we can expect from Israel's assault on Gaza, I've heard these expressions, Andrew: shock and awe, expect the unexpected. I think what we're going to have is a coordination of land, air, and sea, all of that working together, and expect a highly motivated Israeli army. Chuck Holton, our correspondent, was down talking to some of the soldiers on the Gaza border, and he's been talking to them for a few days now. Very, very highly motivated. And then I think right now, again, Andrew, you can expect 3 stages. This comes from Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. First of all, and I think that's going on right now, they're damaging the infrastructure. They're targeting terrorists inside the Gaza Strip. They want to eliminate, in stage number 2, any pockets of resistance. And then third, they want to create a new security regime and reality in the Gaza Strip. I think that's the main goal of what's going to happen here in this ground invasion. And what that looks like exactly remains to be seen. That was probably the topic of conversation with President Biden and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his war cabinet. Gallant has said, and Israel has said, they don't want to control Gaza. Historically, they've not wanted to control it. Back in the 1948 war and the 1967 war, the 67 war in particular, I think I remember a story of then Defense Minister Moshe Dayan seeing that many of the people in Gaza weren't going to Egypt, and he knew that they would have to control them. And actually, it goes back to biblical times. You know, this is the land of the Philistines, and for thousands of years, Gaza has been a problem for the Jewish people. But finally, what they want to do, Andrew, they don't want anything there in the Gaza Strip that's going to pose a threat to the people of southern Israel, like it did on October 7, 2023, probably one of the darkest days in Jewish history.
Chris, you talked about the 3 phases of this war, and Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israeli military leaders say this will be a long war. I'm sure you see the concern that the longer this goes on, the world's going to pressure Israel to back off, wrap it up. It's lasting too long. How do you think Israel will respond to that in the coming weeks and months?
Well, it's going to be very hard, you know, Andrew. It seems like Israel is the one country that really has a stopwatch on it when it goes to defeat its enemies. If you look back to the war against ISIS or the war in Iraq, when Mosul was being taken over from ISIS, when the war in Iraq and, say, Fallujah, there was no stopwatch on that. And then many people actually, were killed, unfortunately, civilians, but there really wasn't the same kind of pressure on the U.S. and its allies during that time. They are warning right now here in Israel, Andrew, that it could be weeks or even longer to go into Gaza. There's urban warfare. Hamas has maybe 300 miles of tunnels in Gaza City, so it's going to take a long time to go through those tunnels, and while at the same time trying to rescue the more than 200 hostages that are inside Gaza right now. Almost an insurmountable dilemma. But as I mentioned earlier, millions of people around the world are praying that those hostages will escape unharmed.
Let's talk about Hezbollah for a moment. Does the Israeli leadership believe they could handle Hezbollah if they attack while Israel is fighting Hamas? Now there's also growing unrest in the West Bank as well. What do you think?
Yeah, they do, and they're fighting wars, on several fronts, on the Gaza and on the northern border. To answer your question, I believe they say yes, they can fight on 2 fronts. They have right now tens of thousands of soldiers on the northern border. They have armor, they have munitions, they have artillery, they have armored personnel carriers. Chuck Holton was up there the other day and reporting just thousands of soldiers all over the place. So really, it's going to be very, very challenging, very difficult for Israel to go fight a 2-front war, but they believe they can do that. And I would add, Andrew, I've heard this for several years from the IDF, is that really they're not looking at a 3rd Lebanon war. There's been a first one in '82. The second one was in 2006. But because of Iran stationing its proxy army Hezbollah, not only in Lebanon, but also in Syria and other militias, this is going to be the first Syrian and Lebanese front war.
Yeah, you mentioned Iran. Of course, they're an enormous part of this. What do you think Israel knows about Hamas's collaboration with Iran, particularly their involvement with the October 7th event?
Well, I think Israel feels like it was directly connected, that it planned, it funded, it actually helped to execute this massive massacre on October 7th. The Wall Street Journal reported that, and ironically, or maybe sadly, the Biden administration doesn't seem to connect those dots between what Iran has done on Israel's southern border and what it is planning perhaps up in Hezbollah. So that's been something that I should say Israel is really connecting the dots between Iran's influence not only on Hamas, but Hezbollah, the Houthis, the militias in Syria. This is that so-called ring of fire that our expert was talking about in our report, really trying to strangle the Jewish state. And so far it's been effective, but we'll see what happens as Israel goes into the Gaza Strip.
Chris, final question here at home. The U.S. has sent substantial military support to the region. Yesterday, a U.S. ship intercepted missiles meant for Israel. Are there concerns about the war widening out with possibly the U.S. and other countries getting involved?
Very much so, Andrew. I think with the massive infrastructure right now of the U.S. and the deployment of 2 carrier groups, maybe 2,000 advisors to Israel, both medical and intelligence, there is that danger. And it's really, what will Tehran do? Will they continue to light these fires in Syria and Yemen and even in the West Bank? That's really the question right now. It's a very precarious time here in the region, obviously, and why so many people are praying for the peace of Jerusalem and for this whole situation.
All right, Chris, thank you. Not just you as our Middle East Bureau Chief, but your entire team. Thank you for all the wonderful reporting from your entire team out there.